The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, exposes how Donald Trump bombed a ship full of Colombian civilians under the guise of bombing Venezuelan narco-terrorists. You have to have absolute room temperature IQ to actually believe that Donald Trump, by bombing these small boats, was going after Venezuelan narco-terrorists. Americans refuse to take responsibility for their own drug problem, so our ruling class is engaging in terrorist attacks against random people in South America because they have no idea how to solve this problem. Let us be 100% clear. The Trump administration don't give a damn about fighting drugs or narco-terrorists. This is just a pretext for them to overthrow the Nicolas Maduro Venezuelan government. Donald Trump and his administration has been 100% clear they want regime change in Venezuela, and now they are calling off all diplomatic outreach to Venezuela in order to prevent a future conflict. Remember all the shameless grifters who tried to tell you that Donald Trump was a peace candidate? What happened to that? Donald Trump is simply finishing the job he started in his first term. Now that sanctions failed to overthrow the Venezuelan government, Trump in the United States is just resorting to outright terrorism. The Republicans even blocked the Democrats' attempt to use the Wars Power Act to limit Donald Trump's ability to wage war against Venezuela. Donald Trump is just another neocon warmonger like every single president that came before him. Hands off Venezuela and focus your time on actually improving the lives of the American people. Vladimir Putin completely destroys the Nobel Peace Prize today after their horrific decision, claims they have no prestige, and gives it to people who do not solve problems.
There have been cases when the Nobel Prize Committee gave the Peace Prize to people who did nothing for peace. And in my opinion, those decisions damaged the prize's authority. So they gave the Peace Prize to people who did not do anything. You should only give the prize on the basis of actual merit. Otherwise, the significance of the prize is eroded, and that's what was happening.
And Vladimir Putin is 100% correct. The Nobel Peace Prize has no credibility. They gave a Nobel Peace Prize to Henry Kissinger, despite the millions of people he killed in Cambodia and Vietnam. They also gave a Nobel Peace Prize to Barack Obama, who will become the drone strike king and drop so many bombs that he dropped a bomb every 20 minutes for 8 years during his presidency. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that this garbage institution is now giving the Nobel Peace Prize to Maria Corina Machado, a CIA stooge who helped the United States destabilize her country. The first thing that Maria Machado did after winning the Nobel Peace Prize was thanking Donald Trump, the man who is waging an illegal war against Venezuela and murdering innocent Venezuelan citizens. Donald Trump and the United States also imposed crippling sanctions on their countries that caused countless harm to the Venezuelan people. But these economic sanctions is what Maria Machado actually supports. Imagine getting a Nobel Peace Prize because you support economically starving your own people. Maria Corina Machado to invade her country in order to get rid of Nicolas Maduro. Imagine getting a Nobel Peace Prize when you are cheering and rooting for your country being destroyed by war. I'm actually glad the Nobel Peace Prize did this because this completely exposes the corrupt, rotten international world order that must be overthrown.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome back. We got Nick at Primetime. Should I call it the Nick and JB show? Because I have my dear brother join me today. You guys know I had to hit my wonderful brother up from Orlando, host of the JB Font channel. He will be joining me today. What's up, my RBN brother JB Font? What's poppin', man?
Good to see you. I am feeling pretty good. I just ate, so I'm no longer hangry. It's a good night.
It's always good to have my brother JB here, who will be sharing his reactions to some of these stories we'll be breaking down today. I will also have Venezuela analysis. They will be joining us here very soon to share their reaction to this crazy story. Like, bro, when I saw Maria Machado win this is her tweet. Bro, my jaw hit the floor. I've been covering this person for years on RBN. I don't know if you guys remember, we just did a propaganda segment maybe a few weeks ago with her on Fox News screaming about how much she supports Donald Trump engaging in terrorism against her own people. You know, them propaganda reports I show you guys, and it's very hard to get through it because, like, it's always the most insane people, the biggest traitors to their countries who are highlighted from Venezuela. And she's part of the opposition party who engaged in violent protests where they lit Maduro supporters on fire, fam. Like, listen to how liberals react to January 6th, which was an absolute joke. A bunch of drunk rednecks showed up to the Capitol, not armed, not even remotely close to overthrowing the government, and the Democratic Party threw the book at these people. Can you imagine what would happen in the United States if you was paid by China, Russia to engage in a violent overthrow of your own country on behalf of a hostile foreign power? I said it before, man. I think Nicolas Maduro has been too nice to these people. He's been too kind as far as I'm concerned. JB, have you been following Donald Trump's attacks into Venezuela? I want to show you this. I want to get your reaction. Mm-hmm. Colombian president, there's massive outrage because as Donald Trump is presenting these videos as if they're going after drug cartels, and we explained before why that's absurd. The president of Colombia, like, bro, you guys are killing Colombian citizens. Those Colombian fishermen that you guys just killed. JB, have you been following this story?
I saw that there was a boat that was being struck. It wasn't a drone strike that the United States actually hit, saying that it was cartel members from Venezuela that they were trying to target, but they end up killing Venezuelan citizens.
It was the biggest joke ever. So what they were trying to explain to people, they were trying to say that Venezuela is the hub of narco-terrorism that exports all this massive drugs into the United States. So the photo, the video they showed to prove this point was a boat with 14 people on it. No space. So I'm not a drug trafficker. I'm not an expert at criminal logistics. But you would think that if you were transporting a massive amount of drugs, you would save a lot of space for the drugs, not 14 people on a small ass boat. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, logistically, yeah.
Like common sense, it didn't make it didn't make any sense at face value. But yeah, the empire, they don't try to be persuasive. They essentially say, this is what we're doing. And if you think we are violating international law, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Venezuela is at the UN right now warning about the United States preparing attacks right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, the United States right now, they're banking on the demonization of Venezuela because that's what they've been doing for years. And so they are banking on the American people thinking, well, it's Venezuela. They must have done something wrong. It's the same thing that they do when they demonize the DPRK, right? It's like that country must have done something wrong. So we had, quote unquote, good reason to do what we did. And so these are a lot of people that say, well, the United States isn't perfect, but we're trying to maintain peace around the world. But it kind of reminds me of what it was said in the first Iron Man movie. It said, Tony Stark said that peace means having a bigger stick than the other guy. But the problem is that Venezuela's not even carrying a stick. They're not even doing anything whatsoever that is a jeopardy to the United States. In fact, I think a majority of the drugs that come to the United States are actually coming, through Colombia. Some are coming through the Mexican border, but a lot of the people who are trafficking it are actually Americans that are trafficking it. I'm blanking on the woman's name. She was a white woman that was working for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and she was responsible for trafficking tons and tons of fentanyl into the United States. And she was working for the police. If you look at, there was actually a lawsuit that was happening here in South Florida, where the lawsuit was basically that a lot of people were being prosecuted, and charges were made against people because the police department in South Florida was actually manufacturing crack cocaine in their precincts in order to plant drugs on people to arrest them. And so if we're going to talk about the drug trade, we need to talk about what the United States is doing, especially in regards to what they have done in the past. Somebody needs to call CIA and ask them about what they've been doing. So honestly, the call is really coming from inside the house, but they're not picking up the phone. And so this is what it looks like to me. And they're just trying to paint, one country as this, because this really fuels the disdain against migrants, right? In this country. Like, look what happened in Chicago recently. They were trying to go after Venezuelan gangs within the area. And it's like, okay, but what about the KKK that has been terrorizing Americans for the last over 200 years? How have they actually went up against them? But the problem is they don't want to do that, because ultimately it's about demonizing one group over another. It's just so that they can maintain that power. And so this is a part and parcel of what they're doing. And it's Venezuela. And if it's not Venezuela, they're going to pick another country that is to the left, that's trying to do things for their people. Today it's Venezuela. Back then it was Chile. Look what they did to Salvador Allende and installed a brutal dictator, Augusto Pinochet. So this is basically the same thing. It's really because they honestly want the resources as well as to demonize the people who are from Venezuela, to make them seem like they're, it's basically the whole, Native American savages all over again. It's basically that. It's the scapegoating of the people, and basically saying, well, they're from a country that's unstable, and so we have to do a regime change in order to be able to have our own puppet, right? And they tried it with oh my God, what's his name? Pencil neck guy. Juan Guaido.
Yeah,
They tried to do it with Juan Guaido, and he's become a joke. He always was a joke, but now he's become even an American joke. And so now they're trying to do it with somebody else. And they're trying to prop up somebody else so that they can be a United States puppet, because ultimately it's about having puppets around the world, because they know that they can't do it outright anymore, because they will see that we won't stand for it. So they do it by painting people in a bad light, whether it's the people of Venezuela or the Venezuelan government, who the people choose at the time.
Donald Trump is essentially trying to finish his plan from his first term. John Bolton bragged about how United States sanctions is going to destroy the Venezuelan economy, because their goal is to use sanctions to turn the people against the ruling class of that country to help enable regime change. Fortunately, the people in Venezuela is smart enough to understand this. They may not believe that Nicolas Maduro is perfect. They may have small criticisms here or there, but they understand what is being done against their people. And now the West, and they do this every single election, they always predict a landslide loss for Nicolas Maduro. And then whenever they are proven wrong, they become violent and they call for mass death in Venezuela. I'm going to bring Venezuela analysis on this point. We got a great guest, literally one of the perfect guests to talk about this issue. But I'm going to show you this headline. This is what they said before the election. I've seen it. Maduro could lose Venezuela presidential election, and whenever they're proven wrong, then the United States is now using and now they're going full all out on the regime change. There's a reason why Donald Trump proposes a $1 trillion military budget, guys. They don't do that shit for show. You propose a $1 trillion military budget when you plan on fucking shit up. It's the reason why I knew this was going to happen. I knew the Ukraine war was going to continue. I know he's going to fuck with China over Taiwan because it's evident in their military spending. And the fact that we essentially live in an arms manufacturer masquerading as a government. But let's bring our guest in on this because we're still going to break down the absurdity that this Western puppet won the Nobel Peace Prize. We have our friends at Venezuela Analysis who will be joining us. This is an amazing journalist, reporter, and expert in Venezuelan politics. We have Sierra Pascal Marquina, who is joining us here today. Hopefully I got that correct. Thank you for joining us on RBN.
You got it right, Nick. Thanks so much for having me. It's good to be talking to you. It is actually important because, of course, Venezuela has been under siege since the election of President Chavez, of Commander Chavez, but it is actually building up. The military buildup of the United States is of great concern. And of course, this whole show with Maria Corina Machado is part of the war against the people of Venezuela.
And how disgusting is it that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, whoever the shadow oligarchs who actually have influence on this, they see the United States and Donald Trump trying to start war against Venezuela. So what do? They help launder and essentially give permission. So when they do this, when they give the Nobel Peace Prize to this person who called for a U.S. intervention in her own country, that's the international establishment giving them the A-OK. When you have Zoran Mamdani, the leading left figure in the United States, put out a statement that said Maduro is a tyrant out of nowhere. Do you guys think that's an accident? It's because they're preparing. Go ahead, Sarah. Feel free to chime in.
Well, the Mandani thing is certainly very sad, but I think we can focus right now on this, on the latest events, and specifically on Maria Corina Machado. I mean, her rap sheet goes back to at least 2002, when there was a coup against President Chavez, and she actually was a participant in that coup, which was, of course, as everybody who knows a little bit about history of Venezuela, was supported by the U.S. So that's where, that's how we can begin to trace her rap sheet. But also she has participated in a ton of spaces where she has provoked, actually, fascist guarimbas, we call them in Venezuela, fascist protests that have killed, as you very well said in the opening, people, burned people. These fascist guarimbas, which happened in 2014 and 2017, actually killed hundreds of people, some of them Chavistas, some of them people who just were walking around. But really, her history is really a tremendous history. But there's two more things in her rap sheet that are very important to know. One is that she has actually called repeatedly and has succeeded. She has called for an economic war against the people of Venezuela. And she also has called repeatedly for a military intervention. And we are actually undergoing a military intervention because what we are seeing in the Caribbean Sea, all this military buildup that's happening around here, around the coast of Venezuela, and actually the killing of fisher folk in waters near Venezuelan territory, that is actually a war, and they have actually threatened, and they are likely to do it, unfortunately, to do also land operations. So the situation is really concerning, but I have to say that the people of Venezuela are actually ready. When this whole thing began, this new phase of the war against the people of Venezuela and the sovereign project of the people of Venezuela began, which was approximately 2 months ago, people began to enlist in the militia, in a popular militia that is actually the people preparing to defend their home and their project and their sovereignty.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Venezuelan grandmothers arming themselves up, preparing for guerrilla war. And I'm telling you guys right now, so I might get my YouTube channel pulled, but any United States soldier who goes to Venezuela, do you get smoked? I'm laughing at you because you're dying fighting a war for the ruling class, and a war, uh, essentially that which is a control of resources. This is what Maria. I want you to speak more about party's positions because this is why, in a nutshell, the United States want her in charge. So you get a Nobel Peace Prize if you call for privatization of state oil assets. Apparently, that is what it means to advocate for peace. If elected, Machado has pledged to privatize uh, Petroles. Am I saying that right? The Venezuela, the state oil company that pumped much.
PDVSA.
Yeah, the state oil company that pumped much of Venezuela oil. So she calling for mass privatization. Exactly what the capitalist ruling class wants. So I said it many times before. I think Nicolas Maduro has been extremely kind to this opposition who sided with the CIA, took payment from the CIA, engaged in violent protests. I want you to react to this statement because this is the statement she put out today. Where her first reaction was to thank the person who is engaging in violent imperial action against her country. I want you to react to this. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
this recognition of the struggle of all Venezuelans is a boost to conclude our task, to conquer freedom. We are on the threshold of victory. And today, more than ever, we count on President Trump, the people of the United States, the people of Latin America, and the democratic nations of the world as our principal allies to achieve freedom and democracy. So, how can you get a Nobel Peace Prize when you're calling for U.S. intervention against your own people? Sarah, do you want to take that on? And James, you can follow up after her if you have anything you want to add.
Sure. First, I mean, what is her program? As you well said, Maria Corina's program and her party's program is the program of the imperialist ruling class. Basically, it's that simple. So yes, privatization, but of course, the end of a substantive democracy, which is what we have in Venezuela. Our democracy is not limited to choosing the president and the representatives in the National Assembly, but the Venezuelan democracy is a grassroots democracy that also claims full sovereignty over the resources. So those two things, like the struggle for a sovereign project, a socialist project in our case that is based on the communes, and the fact that Venezuela has oil is what really drives them crazy. That's the truth. That's what drives them crazy, and that's why Venezuela has been under siege for such a long period of time. And well, I mean, of course, regime change is nothing new about this current situation. Actually, today, as you mentioned before in the opening up, there was a Security Council meeting in which nothing was decided, not surprising at all. The Security Council meeting was called basically for stopping this, it was a call to stop this war against the people of Venezuela. And Moncada, who is the representative of Venezuela in the UN, said actually something very funny and interesting in the press conference following that space, which is about Maria Corina Machado specifically. He said, well, if they had given her the physics prize, the Nobel Physics Prize, it would have made just as much sense as if they gave her this one, because really that is as much she can claim to be a physicist as much as a person who's for peace. She is for war, she is for death. She is a person who actually in her discourse, in her vocabulary, expresses a total disdain for the people of Venezuela. She's a racist, she's classist, and she basically calls for the death of the people of Venezuela because she is basically a puppet of the United States, of the imperialists, rather. She's a puppet of the imperialists, and does she do it well? Does she not do it well? She does it well abroad, actually, but she doesn't do it well here. I have to say this. She actually doesn't have much of a base. I mean, I haven't heard anybody today in Caracas, in the street, when you walk around the street, I haven't heard anybody saying, wow, Maria Corina got the Peace Prize. I mean, people are totally I mean, some, of course, Chavistas are outraged, but the rest of the people are neither here nor there because she's absolutely nobody by now.
Very well said. Before I continue this conversation, I'm going to end this part of the stream on the RBN channel. If you're watching it on the RBN YouTube channel, make sure you guys check us out on the other platforms. We're also streaming on Rumble, Twitch. I'm on X, and also check out my personal YouTube channel. So I'm just going to end it on RBN now. JB, I'm going to give you a chance to chime in. I got a lot to say on this because I want to talk about the common class war element on this. I want to ask you, Sarah, like, who are the Maduro supporters? I think you know more about this than I do. Like, who are the people who oppose Maduro? But before we get into that, JB, do you have anything you want to add? Any comments? Anything you want to ask Sarah? I want to give you in the conversation, brother. Anything you want to add?
And yeah. Thinking about the Nobel Peace Prize, everybody's saying this for trying to spread democracy in Venezuela, which is weird because that you would be thinking that there is no democracy in Venezuela. But as we've had guests on like Fiorella Isabel and Craig Jardula, they've actually went to Venezuela to observe the elections that were happening in Venezuela. And they have actually spoken about how clear and how thorough their democratic process in Venezuela is. So much so that as far as Venezuela is concerned, it is considered to have one of the most thorough election processes in the world, better than the United States. So if that is the case, then her getting a prize for a Nobel Peace Prize for, spreading democracy in Venezuela is like somebody it's like somebody taking a bucket of water and pouring it into the ocean and going, hey, I filled up the ocean. It's like, what? You already have democracy there. Why are you getting an award for something that you haven't even done that's already existing there? So you're not adding anything. So therefore, really, the Nobel Prize is really a farce now. It's a joke. And they have created it to be a joke. And then so much, now you have people like Barack Obama that's literally congratulating her.
Yeah, we're going to get to him soon.
There's literally drone strike his own American citizens in order to bring peace to West Asia. And so for somebody like him to get praises from really just rings hollow about getting this prize that really doesn't mean anything at all anymore. It's really just for people to use an appeal to authority to say, well, this person got a Nobel Peace Prize. And it's like, I got presents from Santa. Who cares? Like, it doesn't mean.
That's why I'm actually glad. I said this on Twitter. I'm glad they did this because this Nobel Peace Prize doesn't mean anything. It's essentially the CIA Rookie of the Year award. It's who they acknowledge as the new up-and-coming puppet of the empire. So it's go ahead, sir. Feel free if you want.
Actually, just very quickly, because I know that we are cutting here, but we are continuing, but elsewhere. So actually, the people who called for this, amongst other, were no other than Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz. So they are about a year ago, they called for this Anna letter to the commission. So imagine that. It's just like it's all cooked up in-house, and there's really no question about what this show is about.
So if we know that it doesn't mean anything, doesn't that mean this is a good thing? Because I think this is a blunder by the ruling class. To me, I think it's better for them to keep criminals like Maria Machado away from the spotlight, because you want to know the consequence of this. Now everyone and their mother is looking into this person now. I'm seeing people who are lib-minded who never cover Venezuela like, hey, do you know this person is a Zionist puppet who called for Israel to invade our country? Like, you guys know, I've been covering Venezuela for years. We had Venezuela analysis on. I've been tightly covering the Maduro story for years. But now the global consensus, everyone's eyes is on the story. Now, everyone who's part of the global majority, who's a victim of this fraudulent international order, they're using this as another example of why the international order is fraudulent. So to me, I think they messed up by putting the spotlight on this criminal. You even have Putin that came out like, bro, this is a joke. Like, the point I'm making is this is not good. This shows that they're desperate. And look at the headline here, and Sarah, you can help me dismantle this talking point, because CNN, every single quote unquote liberal media outlet, every single Western outlet saying that she's getting this Nobel Peace Prize because she's fighting for democracy. She's promoting democracy, fighting dictatorship. You guys realize what she has done is the exact opposite. So sanctions, especially economic sanctions, is a way for you to meddle into an election. It's a way for you to, it's inherently election meddling, because the whole idea is that you want to change the consensus of the public against the ruling class. The whole point is sanctions to tank the economy so the Venezuelan people will blame Nicolas Maduro. So if you rob a country of their economic sovereignty, you are inherently meddling in the election. Hopefully I explained that well. Hopefully that makes sense. But if you have a figure like her who's calling for that, not only is she not a champion of democracy, she's a champion of fascism. But Sarah, do you want to take on this headline? This is what they're all saying.
Well, basically, it's just absurd. I mean, you were mentioning also that she is a Zionist and she has once and again supported the genocide, but also in 2018 she sent a letter to none other than Netanyahu asking for an intervention in Venezuela. So this is the kind of person she is, and I think that this explains it all. I mean, like, if you want to know who she is, she supports the genocide and she calls on Netanyahu and on the Zionist entity to support a regime change, bloodshed in Venezuela. So I think that it's important to put this in context, because of course it is true that, you know, since since there's been so many people who we don't trust very much, like Kissinger, who got Nobel Peace Prizes, and we know who he is, so we know that he was a person who generated bloodshed all around the world. People who maybe remember that will know, even if they don't know the particularities of Maria Corina Machado, that she must be a really bad person. The same with Obama, right? Like, anybody who knows who Obama was, in your very good intro, you were mentioning that there were bombs thrown in by basically with Obama's approval every 20 minutes while he was the president. So these are the kind of people who are the ones awarded this prize. So if people are a little bit aware, they will know that actually there's really bad shit coming down in Venezuela, and it's because she is one of the participants in this. There's bad shit, but there's good shit too. There's good stuff too. I want to highlight this, because this is an extremely difficult time in Venezuela, but it is actually a beautiful time too. And I'm not only talking about the fact that people are in millions enrolling in the defense of their homeland, in the militias, right? I'm not only talking about that, which is beautiful in itself, but it is a time of concern, because if you're enrolling, you think that the imperialists may attack us, and they may well do it. I think it's very actually likely. Well, actually, they may well do it. No, they are attacking fisher folk already. They are doing it, but they may also do it on land, as Trump has saying. So not only is this a beautiful time in Venezuela because there is this enrollment, a beautiful time of concern, but also I want to highlight something. I was saying that Venezuela's democracy cannot be limited to what we understand as liberal democracy, where you choose your representatives. This is a grassroots democracy, which is based on communes, people taking decisions at the grassroots about how to reorganize their life. And this is very, very important, because we are talking about really opening the doors to a new world in the worst of conditions. And look, Chavez proposed communes in 2009. These grassroots forms of organization, our pathway towards socialism, a profoundly democratic pathway towards socialism. He proposes them in 2009, but actually that was a time of peak commodities. So people, while we liked the idea of the communes, it wasn't a time where there was an urgency to reorganize society fully. It was in the hardest of times, in 2016, 2017, 2018, when people remember the commune or nothing phrase of Chavez. Chavez had said that the two options that Venezuela had were either the commune or nothing. And it was in the time when there was actually nothing in the stores in Venezuela. Literally, there was nothing because of the blockade against the people of Venezuela, because the economic war against the people of Venezuela, that many people in Venezuela turned hard towards the communes. They remembered that slogan of Chavez and they said the communes. So in the hardest of times, Venezuelans have also begun to really work hard for this grassroots project that implies the reorganization of society, not only at the grassroots level, I have to say, because the communes are not only a grassroots form of reorganization of politics and the economy, but actually the commune is the project, the national project for the organization of the society as a whole. So they are attacking, of course, because Venezuela has a sovereign project, because Venezuela aims to have control of its resources, but they are also attacking because Venezuela has opened up a model for the reorganization of society that could, they need actually Venezuela. This is an exemplary punishment. Venezuela is living an exemplary punishment. They do not want Venezuela to succeed. And of course, and going back to something else that you were saying before, of course, this can become like the project of Venezuela can become a problem for as a reference, and they have a lot of problems in house. So they also want to displace the focus to elsewhere, and that's when they begin to cook up the whole thing about narco-terrorism. So this is all around a war against the people of Venezuela, against the sovereign project, and it shouldn't surprise us that it comes with prices, and that it comes with discourse, that it comes with lies, but that it also comes with death and destruction.
Whenever I hear about the democratic process in Venezuela and Cuba, to me, that inherently seems way more democratic than anything we have in the United States. And just the commune system, what they are trying to move towards, that sounds beautiful to me. Like, that's how decolonized my mind is. Meanwhile, if you are imperialist minded, and this is how the capitalists really believe, they view anything other than neoliberal capitalist domination of a democracy as authoritarian. And the CIA have admitted that they engage in mass confusion techniques, where they knew there was an internal memo that floats all around tanky Twitter, at least, where the CIA admits that they knew that the Soviet Union was a democracy, but it was a different kind of democracy than American democracy. So they use that to their advantage and to confuse Americans. Anything that's different than us, we smear and we call authoritarian. And that's why one of the first steps to decolonize your mind is realizing that authoritarianism is a propaganda term. But what do you call? Go, feel free if you want to chime in.
It's so true. I mean, I should say that sanctions generally actually do not succeed in their objective. I mean, what are the countries that are more harshly punished with unilateral coercive measures? It would be Cuba, of course, the longest, a lot of suffering, Iran, North Korea, and of course, Venezuela. There are many other countries that are under a sanctions regime, but those would be the ones where there's more violence, more punitive violence in terms of sanctions exercised against their people. And those governments are still standing, but of course they create suffering with these policies. They create a fair amount of suffering. Internally, they do not create instability, actually. I mean, it would be false to say that there aren't people who suffer the sanctions and suppose that the responsible is the government, because that's the discourse that the mainstream media will say. Like, if there's no food in Venezuela, the mainstream media will say that there's no food in Venezuela, or if there are no medicines in Venezuela, the mainstream media will say that it's because the government is corrupt, etc., etc. But actually, that is totally false. And it is true that some people will take the situation and will project it on the government. But actually, a little bit to go back to what you were saying earlier, who supports the Bolivarian revolution? Actually, mostly the working class, although there are also sectors of the middle class who support the Bolivarian government. So the support is mostly at the grassroots, in the basis, in the working pueblo, el pueblo trabajador, the working people are the ones who support this process, this project, this revolution. And why? Because it actually has given them many answers to the actually lived situation, like in the early years of the Bolivarian process, the missions actually opened up education for everybody, healthcare for everybody. And so people actually have, the working class of Venezuela has actually lived the beauty of this process. But, it is true that access, for instance, to medicines, to healthcare has been limited by the sanctions. But now there's communes where people actually can identify not as victims, and this is important, not as victims of the sanctions regime, which is oftentimes from the left how the people of Venezuela are represented. And it's true, of course, that they're suffering. But the commune turns you not into a victim, but into a subject of transformation. Venezuelans do not want to identify as victims, even if they are suffering because the imperialist attack. Venezuelans actually want to do something. And not only do they want to live better, but they want to build a better world. And that is something that they cannot take away from us.
It's such a blessing to have you on, Sarah, tonight to explain these kind of things. Go ahead, JB. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I have an analogy in my head, and please, Miss Sarah, let me know if I'm if I'm correct, okay? This is like having two men who are married. And one of the men is abusive to his wife. And he sees the other man do wonderful, good things for his wife. Not only is he providing for her materially, but he's also very caring and loving. And so instead of the man who's abusive stop being abusive and start treating his wife better, instead he goes to the other man, takes a brick and bludgeons him to death because he does not like that the other man is showing him up. Because if his wife sees that the other man is treating his wife good, that means that there's going to be pressure on him, or she may even leave him. This is what the United States is doing to Venezuela. They're trying to bludgeon them to death, because what the United States doesn't want is for us to look at Venezuelans and go, wait, they have way less money, they have way less than we do, and they're able to do so much with it. And so why aren't you doing that? I think we need to change not just this government, but the entire system. That means revolution. And so if we imitate or emulate the Bolivarian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, the Cuban Revolution, or the Bolshevik Revolution, what have you, right? If we imitate these, then that means who goes out of power? Because we're always going to have a dictatorship, no matter what. But the question is, what type of dictatorship do you want to live under? Is it a dictatorship of the parasite class, or the dictatorship of you and your peers democratically together? And the problem is, a lot of times people don't know that the dictatorship of you and your peers all together democratically is a world that's possible. You and I can have nice things, but the parasite class, who is that likened to that abusive husband, wants to beat anyone that shows them up within the world stage. And so therefore, this is what we are seeing in real time. And so our goal is to take the brick out of the parasite's hand and give the parasite the boot. Because they've had the boot on our necks, it's time to reverse it and actually have something that's better for all of us. Please let me know if I'm correct.
JB, I love your big, beautiful brain. I love the way your beautiful brain works, man. Go ahead, Sarah.
It is a very good analogy. It's a great analogy. And of course, who deserves the brick and the boot is imperialism, who's the enemy of us here in Venezuela and, of course, of the working class in the United States. So about your analogy, I will just add a little bit on it, right? So there's the guy who's the abuser, and he lives in a tremendous mansion. He is actually a tremendous abuser of his partner and of other people around and the people who work for him, etc., etc. He's just a horrible, wretched person. And then there's another household, much more humble, where there is a beautiful partnership between two people. And he doesn't like that, and he goes with the break, and he also wants their house, their humble household. So that's actually a very good analogy what you're making, James. It actually really expresses what we are living here in Venezuela, and actually it reflects how the U.S. operates, or how the U.S. operates not only against Venezuela but against the people of the world who've decided to build sovereign projects.
What is truly authoritarian? Having a system where a group like AIPAC can brag about rigging 30 out of 30 elections like they do. Like in the last election, they brag about having a 100% win rate in the United States. Or seizing the means of production, seizing and nationalizing oil production. To me, there's nothing more democratic than seizing the means of production. And that's why I've been imploring people for years to decolonize your mind, because there's nothing more authoritarian than a capitalist state where the will of the working class is never reflected through the policies. If you have a system where the will of the voters is shown throughout the policies, like you have, for example, just like in China, I know you guys get annoyed with me bragging about China, but when you have a system where people are in line with their government, how can you call that authoritarian when they're getting what they want? In the United States, the majority of Americans, I mean around a 60 to 70% clip, support single-payer healthcare, just for example. Do you guys know that even among the hard right, there's polls that show 1 out of 3 Republicans support Medicare for all? And that's a crazy number. You guys realize that, right? 1 out of 3 Republicans supporting single-payer is a fantastic number, despite what a lot of people say. But despite the overwhelming consensus in supporting single payer, I just use this as one example. We don't get single payer. We get some bullshit Obamacare with subsidies that no one likes. That is a true authoritarian system where the will of the working class is not reflected in the policies that is delivered. When you have a true democracy, we have the dictatorship of the proletariat. We have complete suppression of the agenda of the capitalist class. It doesn't get more democratic than that. But that's just me going off my nerdy theory lectures. Sarah, do you have anything you want to add before I move on?
One that I agree with you about China, and two, in terms of the means of production, I think that it is useful to talk about it, because actually communes also should have means of production. And of course, the one of the first things that the Bolivarian Revolution is actually take control over PDVSA, which is the company, the now state company, that has control over the oil exploitation in Venezuela. So how can you have a democracy when you are hungry? It's that simple. When people do not have access to the goods that they produce, because that is the truth, the reality in capitalism. The majority produces the wealth that is taken in this real dictatorship of the oligarchy, of the corporations, of the bourgeoisie. They take the most of it, and the majority is left with nothing, with practically nothing. I mean, just with enough to survive so that maybe tomorrow you can get back to work, because they do need you there alive. But this is actually the current system, the hegemonic system, liberal democracy. It is actually a dictatorship of the minority. It is a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. And we aim here to build, a more substantive democracy, which we could call, a dictatorship of the working class, a dictatorship of the majority, the dictatorship of the 99%, whatever you want to call it. What we do not want is the minority which exploits you to have the right to say that they want to exploit you. And that is actually what is a dictatorship of the proletariat. It's about the majority saying what they can, and the bourgeoisie not having the right to say that they want to exploit you, because why should they have the right to say that they want to oppress you and exploit you? That is actually not liberty for the majority. So that's where we are. That's where we are in terms of the global system. And here we are trying to build, of course, with contradictions, with difficulties, but we are trying to build a new society. And actually, you can see the beginning of this new society. Mind you, Venezuela is still a capitalist society. There are nucleuses of socialism, but Venezuela is still a capitalist society. We have a long way to go. I think we will be going further because the government supports the communes, and especially over the past couple of years, the government has actually really been supporting communes in a very important way. But we do still have a long way to go. We should recognize that there are many problems to a great degree, to the greatest degree, because of capitalism, also because of the bloody sanctions, the unilateral coercive measures. And then, well, this is making a new world, making a new way of living. It is also difficult, so we make mistakes, but that is our vocation, that is our objective, the objective of the Venezuelan people.
Yeah, your analysis is on point, and we see eye to eye on a lot of these things. I think your breakdown the dictatorship of the proletariat was so on point. I have a few quick headlines and one more quick presentation I want to do. I'm gonna keep this live stream only to an hour. I can't do another 2-hour live stream like I did Wednesday. I've been pulling 2-hour live streams left and right. So you guys know I'm traveling to Seattle. I will be speaking at Shama Sawant's rally. She's running as an independent, challenging a genocidal Democrat, Adam Smith. So I'll be speaking. I'm looking forward to seeing my comrades and our friends in Seattle. So I can't do a long live stream today. I got to fly out tomorrow. Make sure you guys check out Sarah if you're enjoying her breakdown on Venezuela analysis. Make sure you guys also check out my brother JB Fon on his channel, because you guys know RBN, we decentralizing a little bit where we all got our channels. But you guys see, JB gonna be on my channel a lot. I'm planning on having Sabby on here. I'm gonna invite her on maybe a few weeks. You guys still gonna see our RBN friends. I'm gonna quickly I'm gonna show a few receipts. This is like my last presentation before we because I know you guys we kind of hinted at some of these things. I'm gonna show you guys just a little bit more information about Maria Corina Machado, and also I'm gonna show you guys the reactions, because all the worst people in the world are cheering for this. If you're on the fence, you don't know where you should stand on this. You have Ursula von der Leyen, not the Nazi Barbie from NATO. She's in love with this Barack Obama. So if you see all the bad guys in geopolitics cheering this, you know something went wrong. And another reason you know something is messed up about this is because the person who they gave the Nobel Peace Prize to is someone who supports Israel in their genocidal war against the Palestinians. How can you, in this era where the global majority turned against the Zionist regime, unlike I've never seen before, because their genocidal war, they've given a Nobel Peace Prize to someone who not only supported that, but also support genocidal war against our own people? I don't want to play this video, but this video here is she essentially making a pledge that if she won the election against Nicolas Maduro, she would have moved Venezuela embassy to Jerusalem to support Israel, just to highlight the crazy Zionist that she is. She also had
Can I say something about that? Because actually Venezuela, since 2009, does not have an embassy in Israel. Venezuela cut off all ties with Israel in 2009. We are very, very proud of that. So there's not an Israeli embassy here. So that's actually like, what embassy is she going to move? Of course, if she had become president by some, I don't know, miracle, she would have reinstated the embassy. And indeed, she did say that she was going to put it in Jerusalem. And whoever the person who was interviewing her in Fox News, where she often appears, said, "God bless you," or something along those lines, like celebrating this. So, yeah, that is... That's who she is.
Do you guys think that's a coincidence that this Zionist puppet is someone who's propped up as a hero of the empire? Of course not. And this is Nicolas Maduro, who I covered this statement before. This is exactly why the fact that Venezuela doesn't support the Zionist regime, the same way they lie and smear about North Korea, because North Korea never accepted the state of Israel. They always accepted one state of Palestine. There's a reason why they lie to you about these people. Now, it has nothing to do about authoritarianism. They don't care about the people of Venezuela. If you believe any of that stuff, you are a child. You are a child if you believe the United States pick who they like and don't like based on democracy. It has nothing to do with that. The reason why they hate Nicolas Maduro, because Nicolas Maduro said that Jewish people should take up arms against the Netanyahu government. If you just want to know where he stood on the issue of Israel-Palestine. So one gave the endorsement of Benjamin Netanyahu to engage in mass extermination. The other was so against the state of Israel, he was calling for Jewish people to take up arms against the Jewish state. What? So doesn't that say everything? But moving on, because we got a limited amount of time. Here, Ursula von der Leyen. What does it say that all the worst people in the world are supporting this? This honors not only your courage and your conviction, but every voice that refuses to be silenced. That's why I'm glad, Sarah, you reminded us that no one in Venezuela knows who the fuck this is or supports her. Because if you want to watch CNN, I've seen a few. We don't have time to do a propaganda breakdown of it. But if you watch CNN, MSNBC, they're presenting to their liberal audience that the Venezuelan people love Maria Machado, and
I should add, people do know who she is. She just has no life, no political life right now here. So mostly every Venezuelan knows knows her. She's often called La Sayona, which is a reference to kind of like a phantom story, a phantom person who walks through the plains of Venezuela and disappears people. So every Venezuelan actually knows her. She just has no social base right now.
That's even worse. In the amount of lies told by Western media cannot even be calculated, because it's the complete. You would think, if you watch Morning Joe's segment on this, you would think that she's a rock star that couldn't walk outside of Venezuela without being mobbed by a legion of fans who are rooting for her to take power any moment now. But anyway, let me show you a few more quick receipts. Here's another traitor to their country. You guys see how this is like a holiday for traitors of their countries? This is Yulia Navalny. If you guys don't know who Yulia is, we covered her husband, Alexei Navalny, who is now dead, who was a paid agent of the CIA. And this has been confirmed. There was a video that was caught of Alexei Navalny's right-hand man soliciting tens of millions of dollars from British MI6. So can you imagine what the United States would do? I always got to use these examples to break through American mind. If you had Green Party member, some progressive Democrat or whatever, who was caught on video directly asking for hundreds of millions of dollars from the Chinese Communist Party to overthrow the country. Do you understand what the United States would do to that person? But this is the person who they cheer. They call Alexei Navalny a freedom fighter, even though they was working with a hostile foreign power to overthrow the will of his own people. And this is her. This is his wife praising her dear friend. Isn't it funny how it's such a small world and all these CIA assets they all know each other. They all close to each other. This is a holiday for CIA assets. Huge congratulations for the truly deserved victory. So once again, all the worst people are coming out and congratulating her. Here's another worst person, as we mentioned 1,000 times in the stream. He dropped a bomb every 15 to 20 minutes. Here's Barack Obama. Congratulations to new Nobel Peace Prize laureate, I believe, Maria Corina Machado, for a courageous struggle to bring democracy to Venezuela. Jesus Christ, man.
He's the man who declared Venezuela an unusual and extraordinary threat. I mean, maybe a threat because it is a reference, but certainly not a military, or it doesn't threaten any sovereignty of any country. Venezuela, I mean, We are just people who are trying to live with dignity and to have actually control over our economy and our society and our politics. That's who Obama is. Just crazy.
So
That he's
I didn't
supposed to be
mind.
a reference.
Yeah, I didn't mind them keep their hands off Venezuela, because that's what this is all about. They even called in Barack Obama to send a message to help launder this future war. You have Amnesty International, bro. There's so many people showing their whole ass. The International showed their ass during the Ukraine war when they put out their bullshit pro-NATO statement. Here's another example of this. This is an important recognition to Maria Corina Machado, but also the people of Venezuela who for years endured repression and persecution. Amnesty International, what are you doing? You mean the people who were sanctioned by the West, the sanctions that she cheered for? She cheered for United States. This is what I said to them. She literally cheered for a United States intervention, and she cheered on the United States bombing innocent Colombians and Venezuelans. But Amnesty International is coming out in support of her. You guys see how the ruling class, they called in all the favors. Just like Israel after October 7th, when they're ready for game time, it is game time. You're not allowed to hedge during game time. When they're about to start a war, everyone got sent out a tweet. Even the people who are supposed to be the good guys, they hit Amnesty International like, hey, bro, you send the fucking tweet right now. And that's what they did. You want to know who else is following the game plan? Zoran Mamdani. I mentioned this earlier, but he also puts out a statement. Why are you putting out a statement about Nicolas Maduro when you run in to be mayor of New York? It's because they get the call. Bernie Sanders got the call. Bernie Sanders, who had both his primaries rigged against him, a guy who had his presidential ambitions destroyed by the dictatorship of capital, then have the nerve to turn around and smear Nicolas Maduro as a vicious tyrant in order to get the approval of the liberal class, which you're seeing Zoran Mamdani do the same thing. The last thing I'll share here, this is my last thing. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarah, if you want to.
No, yeah, I'm just saying that it is actually sad to see it. But it shouldn't be surprising to anybody either. I mean, the power of the liberal class in terms of controlling these folks who maybe at some point attempt to do something they actually do. It is very sad, and that's why it calls for, like I said this before, but your enemy of those of you who are in the belly of the beast, and our enemy is the same. And I mean, we really have to understand this, because we have to fight together. We have to struggle together. I mean, they are threatening our lives, but they are also threatening your lives, the dominating class. I mean, and represented, of course, as everybody knows, by both Democrats and Republicans. They are basically one party with different, like colors or something, but they are actually the same enemy of the working class. Perhaps internally, in terms of the United States, there may be some very superficial differences, which actually on the day-to-day basis may actually be important. But in terms of the actual project, their project is a project. It's a project that is actually radically opposed to our interests as a class. What brings us together is actually that we are part of the working class. Like we have a lot more in common, Venezuelans and people from the United States, the working class, than things that separate us. But they tried to separate us, and I think that's actually, I think we are kind of like maybe coming to the end. And I actually want to say that, like, fight against them like we are fighting against them. And I know that you folks in the United States are doing, and that the struggle is actually difficult. And actually, I do feel privileged to be in Venezuela, even if we have all these destroyers and a nuclear submarine and airplanes and all this stuff right around the corner. I am happy to be here, even though I am concerned, of course, but I am happy and proud to be here because we are building a new world. So the support of the Bolivarian Revolution is important, but also it is important from here to express our solidarity with the working class of the United States, because actually you have the enemy right at home. We have it, like very close, like 20, 30 kilometers away from us. but not at home yet. We hope to not have the enemy at home, but it is very possible that we will have the enemy at home very soon. And I do hope that people will come out to the streets if the enemy, attacks directly Venezuelan ground. So yeah.
It was fantastic to hear from you, Sarah. And this is what my primary concern is being the enemy from within the empire, opposing their agenda for never-ending war. Because not only is it a moral failing of this country, we don't benefit from the empire. I need Americans to understand they siphon resources from our community. They send our sons and daughters to die just so we can privatize the oil in Venezuela. If I can't appeal to your morality, realize that this doesn't even benefit us. We need an international uprising against United States imperialism, and that's why I stand in solidarity with the Venezuelan people, and I will always tell our ruling class, hands off Venezuela. So it was great to have this conversation with you, Sarah. James, do you have any final thoughts, anything that's on your mind before we begin to wrap up? I definitely got to keep the stream to an hour. I've been doing a lot of super long streams. I'm going to keep this only an hour because it was great to have you joined very last minute, so it was great to have your analysis. Sarah, make sure you guys follow and subscribe to Venezuela Analysis. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to my friend and my brother JB channel as well, who does great analysis of the class war and mutual aid organizing. I think JB is one of the best. So, JB, any final thoughts before you begin to wrap this stream up?
Yeah, free all oppressed people from around the world, including Venezuela, and stop the sanctions and let them be free.
Very well said.
Yeah. And we haven't talked much about sanctions, but sanctions kill tens of thousands of people. So we are facing a war with weapons, but we have been facing a war without bombs since 2015, which is when Obama released his decree. So yes, it's good that you bring on sanctions, this economic war against the people of Venezuela, which is ongoing.
Yeah, economic war, sanctions is just another form of warfare. That's how I view it. Thank you guys for watching. I will be with Shama Sawan this weekend. We have our big campaign rally. She's running against genocidal Democrat Adam Smith. So you guys know I love to get speeches. I love doing this kind of stuff, actually be on the ground. This is why I'll be this weekend. I don't think there definitely won't be a stream on Monday because I'll be flying in and stuff. So my next stream will be on Wednesday, actually. I plan on making up that Monday stream, maybe with a weekend stream. I'm going to make up that Monday stream. I'm not going to do this upcoming week. But thank you guys for joining. Make sure you guys follow Venezuela Analysis. Follow my brother JB. Make sure you guys follow Shama. And if you're in Seattle, come out. I think it's going to be a great time. Take care and have a great weekend, my friends. Peace out, y'all.